Hi everyone, it's Kelly with Women for One, and we're back in this great February 2015. This year seems to be just smoothly running along, at least for me and Women for One. And I'm really excited to be speaking with Dr. Julie Krull today. She has interviewed me, and I really feel like our conversation will help anyone and any woman that's kind of looking towards moving forward on their conscious path of what they want to be doing in their lives. And I just really look forward to the possibilities today. So Dr. Julie, she's a mentor and a spiritual guide for the evolution of consciousness and co-creative leadership, which I love. In a generative model of personal, social, and global transformation, Dr. Julie Krull is making connections that inspire and accelerate individual and collective awakening. She's also the founder of Generative Alliance and founding steward of goodofthewhole.com. And where we connected, her popular radio talk show, The Dr. Julie Show, All Things Connected, which I love that phrase, airs live on Transformation Talk Radio and WBLQ. And each week, what Dr. Julie does is she's joined by change makers and visionary leaders from around the world to explore that type of social change that we really want to talk about today, and what's emerging in health, science, spirituality, and the evolution of our planet. She's also the author of a forthcoming book, Fractured Grace, which I would love to talk about as well. So welcome, Dr. Julie.
Oh, thank you, Kelly. I love your introduction. It was so beautiful because it just was you speaking about your experience of me and our connection just most recently. So thank you for that. That was lovely.
Absolutely. And, what I first start out with for our community when we have these authentic and true conversations is I just give us a background of who you are and how you came to be where you are now.
Oh gosh. Okay. How much time do we have? I can really abbreviate because it's the everything seems to be just clunking into its place now. I'm sure you and your listeners will understand what I'm meaning by that, of really a lifetime of preparation, and it's showtime. It's like, we've been rehearsing and we've been practicing, and now it's like showtime. So when I was a little girl, I'll just give you this background. I, at the age of 4, I had a near-death experience. And at that time, it just opened this whole relationship with the spirit realm that I didn't know was weird or different. It was just a part of who I was, with intuition and visioning and communication and just my whole relationship with the universe from that place. And so from a little girl's perspective, I grew up with a lot of domestic challenges in my home and experiences that we had. And one day when I was 11, I just simply asked the universe. I went outside in one of my normal conversations with the universe or God, creator, spirit, whatever you want to call it. I went outside and I sat in the lawn and I'm like, why I don't really want to be here. I don't understand these humans. I don't know why they treat each other like this. And I'm having this whole conversation about really, I'd rather go home. I don't want to be here. I don't get it. Why are they treating each other like this? And I had one of the most profound experiences at that time at age 11. I literally left my body. I had this experience, and I don't need to go into a lot of the detail, but it really informed my path and my work on the planet. And I could see literally what was happening on the planet and how it would be healed. And so it just really had informed me from that early age. And then, of course, I had years of impatience and pushing forward and doing the work as healer, teacher, that kind of stuff on the planet. But from a very early age, I really wanted to embody this connectivity, could see the spiritual pieces of it, could see, it's kind of like behind the curtain. and I could see what was running the show. And so, yeah, that's what brought me where I'm at today, is just really understanding it from a multidimensional way of being on the planet.
Well, it's so interesting. Thank you for sharing that. And it's so interesting. You talk about the age of 4, you said, and 11, correct? Because those
Yes.
were my 2 ages as well. It's very interesting. The 7 years between, 7 years between them. Those were my 2 ages. And the word that really comes up for me when you talk is for women and all of us to be curious. That gift of curiosity. And I wanted to ask you about that, because really that gift of curiosity, wanting to understand, wanting to know, what were some of those answers you received?
Oh, wow. Well, I love the curiosity, thank you, and just really being with that. Being in the question is a really important quality for us, because the answer does inform, the field, that divine intelligence will inform us and take us to those next steps. So what I saw, it's kind of like I was up in the cosmos. Literally, I ascended from this little girl sitting on the lawn and went up into the cosmos with this masculine spiritual guide with a really long beard and a funny hat, and we were literally, I could see the earth from a distance. And so many people have created these images over the last 40 years. It's been really beautiful to watch how I can see the images that I saw. But literally, we were holding the earth like a snow globe. Movies of the violence and domestic issues and international issues, and so all of this negative was happening in this movie thing for me. But the beautiful part was like this big light comes down and came onto the earth and just ignited these lights. So think about the snow globe when you shake it up and the glitter lands on the earth. And that was a light that came onto the planet. And then literally these lights are around the planet like the glitter. And then it began to connect. And these lights began to just connect one point to the next point to the next. And we see images of that all over now. And then literally we began to weave the light and hold the light. And so then that piece, of course, there's so much more to the vision and what I was called to do. But what I learned, the curiosity piece, was really in us and our relationship with creation. That literally we could go out and really try to make things happen, or we can understand creation and be a part and co-create with this divine intelligence that's really guiding and directing these pieces, and really fully be in our inner beingness with God, Creator, and with one another. And I think that piece we're seeing manifest so beautifully on the planet right now it's our inner beingness with each other and with nature and with Creator, creation. And that's the key to really bringing everything back into balance and harmony and wholeness again.
Well, I love what you're talking about with curiosity and the connectedness. And so if we transition into a place of these experiences are so fabulous, right? And it feels like I'm very focused on feminine, masculine with that, right? So that's this beautiful feeling, emotion, visionary experience of the feminine. So if you take that and you mix it with the masculine, how do you think as women we can move forward to make a step to make life happen the way we want it to and create our reality?
Oh, that is such a good question. I'm like really inspired by the process of integration. And what does that really mean? Even a question recently about ownership versus stewardship, and then us saying, oh wait, ownership is stewardship, stewardship is ownership. Masculine and feminine coming together in this sacred marriage is fascinating when we do integration. So what I say, I love this question. Really, it's so important for us to really understand our pieces. what is ours to do, and how do we sit in the inner beingness of our own masculine and feminine and really become the expression of it, the divine expression. So literally, Kelly, I spent, and I just got asked to be on a telesummit that talks about power and courage, and I really want to bring this different voice in to what this really means, because we have learned with women, literally, I'm going back in time. There's the women's liberation movement, this voice that wants to be heard, and really it came from this masculine place inside of us that wanted to compete with the masculine with the same energies of masculine. And what we're really on the precipice of, which is really beautiful, is understanding our own masculine and our feminine, and not being afraid to voice that essence, not being afraid, number one, to mingle our masculine and feminine, and our ego and essence, and our spirit and matter, but really to become this witness of those energies on the planet and come from a voice that sometimes is our feminine and sometimes is our masculine, and really not be afraid anymore. Stop competing with only our masculine to try to be heard in the world. There's so much noise out there. But really, what happens if we sit back and we are that receptive, softer place of being in the world, and we learn about this connectivity, which is very feminine, and then we become this voice that really is a whole voice that encompasses all of that. And when we start to speak from that place, I'm seeing genius entering the planet like never before. I don't know if you're noticing this, Kelly, but you're inspiring so many women. For me, oh my gosh, when I see people speaking from that place of their genius, it's incredible what we're starting to create on the planet and how that voice is being heard.
Well, and when you talk about genius, I love that because, my parents were both PhDs, and I really, to be perfectly honest, never valued education like I should because of my personal rebellion and my background and my history and upbringing. It was like, okay, you know what? Genius to me is about getting real with who we are, being clear about what we envision our lives to be, and also going to the place of taking action around that for our own lives and for the world. So when I hear the word genius, I think of people like that people are present to their lives, that are moving to the place you're talking about, getting aware of what's going on, aware of their story, inspiring themselves and others to make a change, and then to shift into that action place, if that makes sense. Would you agree?
Absolutely, because the piece here that you're talking about with that action piece, when it comes from the inspired place of our authentic power,
right,
it's very different than that competing, comparing, contrasting place of what we were told was our power. We were conditioned growing up in our culture that to really compete from this masculine perspective of individuality, and that's not working anymore. We're really coming from this place of authentic power, which is connecting with all of that. When we're connected with nature and we're connected with creator, creation, and community, then that voice naturally nudges us into a really more incredible action. It's a very different actioning. I don't know if you've noticed that as well, but it literally, the universe manifests things for us when we act. One of the things that just happened on a call, and I'll give you an example, a real example of how this works. I was on a call with 2 other people, and we're creating a project. We're like holding the form for this beautiful thing that wants to come through. And so with it, one of the people on the call said to the other person, I I kind of had this little sticky thing. I had this feeling when you made this call and you invited these people into a meeting and you didn't consult me. I kind of felt this thing that just kind of stuck with me, and the other one's like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to hurt your feelings. And I was like, okay, no, but so what happened, Kelly, was because this woman had the courage to say, ew, this didn't feel right. What happened was voicing that into the field moved so much energy, and creation started to create through us, and literally it activated this whole brand new way of looking at a piece of the project. And literally it was like the project was almost complete in that moment because of us saying, you know, this thing didn't feel quite right, and having the courage to say, kind of like, you hurt my feelings, but saying it in a nice way. So it's moving into those places that sometimes makes us feel really crunchy or uncomfortable, or those little places of internal conflict. And when we listen to that subtle cue of the universe moving through us and we voice it, it's amazing. In safety, you can't just go do this out in the in the greater world right now without that safe environment. But in those safe relationships, amazing genius moves through and informs us and expresses and starts to co-create with us. It's really exquisite.
Well, absolutely. So you come back to the curiosity where you're always looking at that place, but let's move into connectedness, because what you're talking about is people being curious and having the courage enough in a relationship or any kind of dynamic to say, we're all connected, and have that trust and courage to call it out. Because if we are all connected, we're all learning when we're moving through these dynamics with each other to learn the lessons. And then we move into that connectedness. And I know your show is called All Things Connected. And let's talk a little bit about that word. How do you define that word and move into that more and look and view it?
Thanks for asking. You know, a lot of people in their heads will think about connection, and then they'll just go, well, of course we're connected because of this, kind of like this connectivity outside of ourselves, like the web, drawing it's like connecting the dots on a piece of paper. Like, of course we're connected. But really what our show strives to do, and what my work in the world strives to do, is to really help us understand our interbeing, not just interdependence, but literally our interbeing. Thich Nhat Hanh talks about interbeing. Charles Eisenstein talks about interbeing. And I love that concept of, Kelly, you are a part of me, and I'm a part of you, and we are one organism with the expression of Kelly and the expression of Julie. All of our listeners today are a part of me. And so, like, going back to that example, my friend could say, I'm having this experience of me in relationship to you, so what does it mean about me? And that ties into curiosity with the connection. Because whatever the experience I'm having in this moment is a reflection of a piece of me that's wanting to come forward, whether it's for healing, whether it's for expression, whether it's for greater creativity. So what does all things connected really mean? It really is that we are a part of one whole living, dynamic organism that has its own divine intelligence that informs us. And instead of us thinking we're individuals and there's this creator out there, and you know, it really is so much more than what we've allowed our minds to understand. And when we go to our minds, it doesn't make rational, logical sense. So really it is this visceral embodiment that moves into our hearts and into our bodies and our experience as one living organism.
I like that. I mean, I totally agree with you, and we're very aligned in what we believe. And also, right, so we're connected, so it's this one living connection, and what we do impacts every other choice that we make in our own lives, in our families' lives, and we just keep expanding out into, you know, the earth and the universe. If we look at it that way, what I want to get to is like, okay, so if we all agree that we're all connected and our choices all affect one another, and it's a beautiful place, how does that affect me personally, and what can I do with that information? I want to talk about that for a minute with you. What do you think?
Well, you know, this is an important shift. It's kind of like if we really sit in the story of separation, we behave differently. Mm-hmm. If we really are grounded in the story of our interbeing, then everything is really an expression of that from a really important level. So, it also informs that piece of action, Kelly. Every moment when we're presencing ourselves with that, we're following these little threads and these leads, and it really informs us. We act differently. We be differently in relationship to that. So literally, when you ask that question, it's really it's hard to just have a quick answer, because if we are in the place of individuality and our understanding ourselves as separate from, it's a very different consciousness. And most everything on the planet right now that sits in the consciousness of separation is literally breaking down around us. So here's an important piece. Part of us wants to totally believe in this interbeing and be in this place, and then we're watching our banks fall apart, and our insurance and our healthcare and our education and all these systems are falling down around us, and relationships are breaking down, and we're feeling a collective anxiety about that. There's a collective anxiety. And so really going back to the understanding of the interbeing and really standing in that place of the story of our connectivity, we can hold anxiety and breathe and stay calm, like being the calm in the center of the storm, like, so to speak, that really it's our responsibility for those that hold this understanding to just literally have compassion for the anxiety, but don't get pulled into it and get really sidetracked from our work and what is ours to do. I took kind of I sidestepped your question, and I don't know if I answered it completely, but it really brought up something that's really important, I think, for all of us to really feel and experience, is that this anxiety in the three-dimensional realm of time and space creates a lot of distraction for people. And it's a very real anxiety as we're letting go of this story of separation, because we really haven't landed in this interconnectivity, this interbeing place yet as a collective. Our consciousness hasn't all landed there.
Well, I mean, I could get really into this with you. And because I would like to challenge you on that one and say, you know, my deep belief system is we are exactly where we need to be, and there is no time and there is no space, and that we are already there and we're not at the same time holding that space, and it's all an illusion. I get what you're saying, but that's a little like, you know, moving off of what I want to focus on with us is really, you know, the women in Women for One are really about sharing their experiences of that collective consciousness, of something that happened, and the shared experiences that all of them have courageously told on our site, and then moved forward into a place of like, here's my experience, it doesn't define me, and this is what I did with it, right? This is the choice I made, the responsibility I took from my reality that I created, that happened to me, to make my life better in the process that would help other women and men have the courage to do that themselves, give them some ideas, and inspire them to take action in their own lives. So if we come back to that place, it's just fascinating to, I don't know, it's just fascinating to talk about all this, because it's like you can hold the space of understanding that we're all connected and we're not quite there as a collective consciousness yet, but there's so many people that are courageously making those efforts in small percentages, right? Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely. I don't think it's even small percentages. I think it's huge right now. Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
That's great. That's good to hear. So if we move, okay, so I would like literally I could spend an hour and a half talking to you about this, but in the for the interview and the conversation, I'd love to move on to the place of your book and what you're doing with your book. And I love the name Fractured Grace. Can you talk a little bit about it?
Oh, this would be another hour and a half conversation, and thank you for that. And just in saying that, I just want to say I love everything that you just said in response to our conversation, because it's so important. Coming from the place of separation, my book talks a lot about this. I broke my leg 6 months ago. I broke my leg. I literally was walking down a hill, grassy slope, slipped, planted, twisted, and snapped 4 bones. And I had been writing a book for a long time before that. I had written, and it wasn't flowing. And so what happened was, when I broke my leg, hence the hint of fractured grace, all of those early childhood experiences that I was talking to you about, with this beautiful information, and all of this teaching that we're talking about right now, this co-creation, spirituality, connectivity, oneness, wholeness, all of these pieces were out floating. And what happened was, it brought it into my body, and the lessons began to weave together like that light on the planet that I talked to you about. Even while my bone began to weave together, like the lessons of what happens with a fractured bone began to give me real life language and understanding of how we're doing this as a humanity. So literally, obviously, all of our answers are in nature. I think creation, everything is right in front of us in so many ways. And so really understanding, even like, for example, when we break a bone, all the blood rushes to that area. There's the first stage of the healing that happens. And then we move into the second place of healing, where literally the bone begins to weave together. It's like, oh my gosh, okay. So Fractured Grace is really a way for us. I'm a storyteller. I like to look at nature. I like to look at experiences, and it takes the real, what do I want to say, metaphysical, quantum physics. Good gracious, we have so many different ways of viewing the world, and it can be really confusing for people, and it brings it down into really simple little bite-sized pieces that really help people understand what's happening in their experience, which is beautiful. It's exactly the same thing of inviting the women to tell their stories. They're moving out of this place of separation and fear and going, oh, I'm so much more than this, and I can take charge of my responsibility and be responsible. I have the ability to respond to life. So they're moving themselves from this place of fear and separation into the greater whole, and understanding their pieces, their authentic voice in that, and really activating something greater than themselves by doing it. And so that's kind of what the book is about. It makes it really simple and easy to understand.
That's great. It's all about truth and authenticity. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. Yeah. So what other projects do you have going on, Julie?
Oh, well, you know what? Thank you for asking. One of the things that's in a launch place right now, besides teaching and coaching and inviting people in to do different experiences, we're holding a called The Good of the Whole, which you mentioned in your introduction. Thank you.
Right.
Literally, a organism is being born right now in this living experience of bringing it into manifestation, called Good of the Whole, which really is holding the collective experience in so many different ways of the same, bringing spirit and consciousness to life in every realm of life. So what's happening on our planet that's working and that's good, that's really bringing spirit and consciousness into education, into politics, into government, into healthcare, into spirituality, into all these different forms of really holding all the goodness, just like Women for One, you're doing it. And so this organism is really encouraging and inspiring the connectivity between everything that's already there that's working. It's like the literal weaving of the good right now, of really holding what's the good of the whole, what's in the greater good for all of us, and how do we begin to start weaving what works into this unity consciousness that we've been talking about. So it's a website. They can read articles, they can get little pieces. There's more that's being unfolded and that will come into play. But people can connect, they can share, they can learn. It's a free open source website that really holds all of this.
That is so awesome that you're doing that for everyone on this planet. I mean, it's another place of inspiration that people can go to and get information. And I'm so grateful to you for doing that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. It is about inspiration, and it's for those that need just a little inspiration. There's a lot of really beautiful gems. They can go there and be inspired. And it's a place of support. So like if I have a project or an idea and I'm working on something, the good of the whole can support you in getting that out in the world and connecting you with people that are doing the same things. And it is really quite exquisite. And thank you for noticing that and saying that.
Well, and also, I mean, it's very similar to Women for One. It's about inspiration and connection and finding out all the great things that are happening in this world that we can learn from and imitate, do ourselves, be creative, be truthful, to uplift the planet and everyone in it. So thank you for that. And it was so wonderful to talk to you today. And how can everyone get in touch with you if they'd like to reach out to you? Like, what are some ways that you can interact with our community?
Oh, thank you. Thank you for that invitation. The very easiest way to get a hold of me would be to just find me on my website, juliekrull.com. We're also on Facebook, and now we have the Good of the Whole and other avenues. But everything will start right there at juliekrull.com. You can, email me that way. You can find my phone number on there. You can look at programs and offerings that we have. Sign up for my email list, which I don't send emails very often at all. I don't like that. But start at juliekrull.com and join in. We have a beautiful sanctuary there, and lots continues to just unfold through that venue. So thank you.
Wonderful. And I invite our community to check Dr. Julie out and listen to her show and go to juliekrull.com. We will have all this information when we post this interview on YouTube and as well as on our site. So thank you again, Dr. Julie. I'm so honored to have spoken to you today and look forward to connecting with you in the future.
Oh, thank you, Kelly. I really appreciate being here. It was an honor for me as well. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Take care.